to come to refute that story. So I think much as we agree there are challenges, we must also, as Nigerians, be responsive and responsible to our responsibilities in maintaining law and order. It's not just to be left for security agencies alone.
Well, if there's anything that is worrisome right now, it's the internally displaced persons. I mean, whether or not our soldiers are getting the upper hand, nobody wants to be in the middle of conflict. What people want to do is flee conflict, because you know that in the middle of, fire back and forth, people will be affected. It doesn't look like we're actually making provisions for that.
Yeah, I think the government is making adequate provision for that. You remember the committee that was set up for these victims of Boko Haram by Mr. President. I think that will take charge of the issue. But you also recall that for some time, before this time, and I continue to emphasize on the point that people have been saying the military is not doing sufficiently enough. But in the past 1 week or so, you can see that the army, for instance, our security forces have been re-engineered. They are taking on Boko Haram. And that is why most times you hear of conflicts now, casualties on both parties. I think our military should be commended. In fact, I was out of the country, I just came in, and I read, you see, the commitment, the sacrifice made by our security forces should be appreciated. When I read that the son of the former president was shot in the crossfire, it tells you the commitment our armed forces, our security forces have. Because it cannot happen in any other institution. The son of a former president, you are sending to the war. That shows you the type of discipline and commitment our security forces have. I think we should.
I thought that's a given. If you sign up for the army or any security outfit,
that's the point
you have to go with the stipulations.
That's the point I'm making. That in other institutions, you'll be given some preferential treatment. You agree with me? But in the military, it's not like that. There's discipline. And without discipline, we cannot make progress in this. I think the military, so as far as I'm concerned, has been re-engineered, and they are taking on Boko Haram. And by the grace of God, we'll make a success and make progress in the course of fighting Boko Haram.
But some people are wondering, though, what exactly has finally buoyed this group? What we used to hear of Boko Haram, we were following their upsurge since 2010, one suicide bombing here, one suicide bombing there, and, even further, generally that was the mark of terrorists. But it was seen now that they're more bent on claiming territory. What is happening?
Yeah, you see, like I said in my intro, the issue of terrorism is not peculiar to Nigeria. They have their foreign affiliates and collaborators. The same thing, they are trying to declare their states by the ISIS. You see what is happening by Al-Shabaab. So they are all collaborating. And that is why I was even happy this morning when I was listening to one of the foreign stations when the US president talked about the activities of ISIS, that it has nothing to do with religion. They are just criminals who are ready to eliminate people who are on their course, and that's exactly what Boko Haram is doing. If we look at the activities of Boko Haram critically, they are not killing only Christians, Muslims, traditional rulers, the military. So they have no known boundaries. It's a big challenge, and I think I don't think we are actually prepared for this crisis the way it is appearing.
Yeah, but what about along the way? Have we re-engineered ourselves?
Of course, that's why I said the military has been re-engineered. You can see the area bombardments by the Air Force. And you also recall, that's why I said that we were not actually prepared for this war. In the 80s, under the military, all what we had was just regime protection. We had nothing to do, we had no security challenges. The security challenges we had then was possibly robbery, housebreaking, and the rest of them. But until the 1 million man march organized by Abacha in the way to succeed himself, the South-South, he said, I want to go back to history. They came to Abuja, the Niger Delta boys came to Abuja and discovered what was going on. Their consciousness was then awakened. They decided to take it upon to control their resources. That gave rise to the Niger Delta crisis. In the southeast, you also had the issue of, all this came with democracy. In the southeast, you talk of kidnapping and the rest of them. In the southwest, we had the Odua People's Congress with their problems. And they also came up with the Boko Haram in the north. So this is a very big, we have very serious security challenges under democracy. We have serious challenges. So we should not shy away from it. And I think the government is doing more than enough. But the results is what people are interested in. We want security, we want peace to reign, because without security, there won't be any meaningful development. I think that's what.
But what do you say to those who ask that? Look, because I mean, we also raised similar questions several years when we thought, why is it that when these attacks happen, the first things you hear, or part of what you hear alongside, is that they are hoisting flags, taking territories, and you ask yourself, wait a minute, is this what this is about? And so, if that is what it's about, do you think they'll stop at nothing to achieve this?
Well, they will not. They will not stop at nothing. They won't stop at anything to get what they want. But the issue remains: will they achieve it? The answer obviously is no, because no matter what they do, you cannot defeat government. It will only take time. Hoisting flag, you see, one of the aims and objectives of Boko Haram, according to them, is to Islamize Nigeria. So part of hosting their flag could be part of their plans.
But are we taking that threat or that ideology seriously? Because some dismiss that with a waiver and say, look, that can't happen.
You can't dismiss it, but it cannot happen. It must be tackled headlong by government. And that's exactly what government is doing. You recall that before the Senate proceeded on leave, Mr. President did ask for a loan of $1 billion, and it was all welcomed by the Senate. That shows that everybody is concerned. So all hands must be on deck: the legislature, the judiciary, the executive, and the general populace. So we must all be concerned to ensure that security is maintained in Nigeria.
What do you think about this controversy about who is funding this group?
Well, that's a big challenge. Like I said, you know, the issue of funding of terrorists is complex. Complex in the sense that they have international connections, international funding through collaboration with their various affiliates. But Boko Haram, for instance, you know, they go out to raid banks, stealing, and they sought. Although most politicians will not come out to tell you openly, I'm aware that some politicians pay what they call protection fee to all these people. And it's difficult for the security agencies to act when no report has been made. But
on this protection fee?
On the protection fee, yes.
Do they have to make a report before the agencies act?
They don't have to make a report, but what I'm saying is that it becomes difficult if somebody volunteers on his own to say, well, I'm going to pay this money for my own protection, and you've not been able to establish that that money was paid or that money exchanged hands. So there must be a complainant in the case. But if you go and arrest somebody to say, okay, you paid money, and they say you didn't pay, what would you do? But it has been established. That's part of the sources of funding.
While we're looking at sources of funding, it's one thing to get funds, another thing to use the funds to buy arms. A lot of people have been wondering, how is it that these people get arms? I mean, they get so sophisticatedly armed.